Good morning everyone, I'm Wan Shen. Today, I'm going to present my final year project with the title Cybersecurity Awareness Game CSAG for Secondary School Students. My supervisor is Miss Hazina. Before I start my presentation, I would like to give an overview of the overall presentation. First, I will introduce the problem background of this project, the proposed solutions, and objective, scope, and aim of this project. This will then follow by the summary of literature review. I will also introduce the methodology used in developing this system. After that, I will summarize the requirement analysis and design in the CSAG system. The system design include project design, database design, and interface design. All of these design will be further explained in the presentation later. Once the system is completely designed, it is tested through the different methods. The implementation and testing results will also be explained before the end of the presentations. Last but not least, this presentation will end with the conclusion. First and foremost, there are 5 problems in the current system which lead to the need to develop the CSAG system. The first problem is high usage on social media among children. According to the Fernandez in 2011, the high usage on social media among children expose them to peer-to-peer risks such as cyberbullying, online harassment, and easily get influenced by the third parties online. Besides, the students nowadays do not have the skills in protecting themselves online. This was proven by the Parfrey in 2010, who stated that there is a need to provide the skill in protecting the personal information among the youth, as they are lacking of the skill in keeping the personal reputation and privacy online. Although there are many of the security awareness programs available in the market, which created to train the security awareness among secondary school students, the program tend to focus on giving the seminars or talk. Students are easily get bored during the seminars. Besides, the seminar cause the memory retention problem as massive information is taught in a short periods of time which is unable to be remembered by students. Although there is many of the online portals able to deliver security awareness to online users, yet the current system do not provide a way for the player to track their learning progress. Therefore, CSAG is proposed. CSAG will then provide a fun way for secondary school students to learn cybersecurity awareness, with a 3D third-player shooter game being created. Besides, through the game-based delivery method, CSAG is able to improve the memory retention. CSAG also provides a platform for the player to track their progress. The project aim of CSAG is to cultivate cybersecurity awareness to secondary school students through an online gamification method. In order to achieve the aim, it is break into 3 objectives, which are to study the internet usage, online activity risks among secondary school students, and delivery methods of cybersecurity awareness program that currently used to bring the awareness of the cybersecurity among secondary school students. This followed by the objective 2, which is to design and implement the web-based game CSAG. And the last objective is to test and verify the system functionality and the user acceptance. The project scope of this project includes the secondary school students with age 13 to 17 with internet usage using different devices. 3 aspects of the security awareness topic are included, such as the oversharing, safety downloading, and cyberbullying. The last project scope is a web-based gamification system. Now, I'm going to explain the summary of literature review. So there is 4 parts in the literature review. Each part of them is used to analyze on one of the subtopics. And in literature review, the questionnaire is distributed to get the user requirement. This is then followed by literature review to analyze the delivery method and the topic that should be involved in developing CSAG, the gamification element that should be involved in the game development, and last but not least, the teaching material that should be included in each of the category in CSAG system. First, the questionnaire is used to get the user requirements. The questionnaire are breaking down the questions into 6 parts, which is used to identify the background of the secondary school students, the internet usage, the level of the knowledge of students in cyberbullying, oversharing, and safety downloading categories, and survey on the current cybersecurity awareness program. 30 secondary school students are involved in this questionnaire and 53% of them are females. Based on this graph, we can know that majority of the students spend more than 4 hours in accessing the internet and 87% of the students use internet every day. And most of the students use the internet and playing games using the smartphone, and 21/30 of the students use the internet for the homework and the online chatting purpose. Cyberbullying questions also being analyzed. More than 50% of them actually get to know the real meanings of the cyberbullying, and 70% of them choose to not to report the cyberbullying when they have witnessed the cyberbullying case happen to them. And we can know that there's a small portion of them experience the cyberbullying or being cyberbullied before. Most of the students would choose to tell their parents about the cyberbullying case rather than report to the Cyber 999 and the Child Line 51999. The questionnaire also analyzes on the oversharing information. We can know that 54% of the students share the phone numbers to the social media, which is very unsafe, and only 9% of them choose not to share the personal information such as the phone number, IC number, and the email address and the home address to the social media. It is surprisingly that 50% of the students actually know that the private setting on the Facebook and actually use them in their real life. These are the questionnaire also analyzed on the safety downloading issues. This is the platform that provided by the secondary school students, and the platform divided into 3 parts, which is the music platform, drama websites, and the video converters. From the platform that provided by the secondary school students, only just YouTube and Chanxins is safety to be downloaded. The others than that, the platform is unsafe and the student may expose to the virus. Therefore, there is a need to teach them about what is the platform that is safe to download and what is the consequence of downloading the music or movie from this website. The questionnaire also analyzes on the percentage of the students that actually know the YouTube copyright issues. From this pie chart, we can know that 77% of students does not know there's a YouTube copyright issue. Therefore, there is a need for CSAG to teach the students about the copyright issues. This or the questionnaire also asks the students about the current security awareness programs that prepare to the secondary school students. So among the 30 students, only 5 of the students have the experience in cybersecurity programs, and among of those students, 80% of them are participate in the security awareness talk and 20% are participate in the security awareness test, and 80% of them think that the program is fun and 20% of them think that the program is not fun. In order to answer the question in what is the best method to deliver cybersecurity awareness among the secondary school students, a literature review is done to research on the delivery method in the current security awareness training. 6 papers has been read, and among of the 6 research papers, we can notice that the game-based methodology is the most common method to deliver cybersecurity awareness, and the cybersecurity awareness topic has been compared in each of the tables here. From this table, we can know that the cyberbullying, posting online, and free download have less focus compared to the phishing and password. Therefore, CSAG will focus on cyberbullying, oversharing, and safety downloading. In order to answer the question of what should be included in our CSAG game, a literature review is done and show has been introduced the core of the gamification with its corresponding gaming technique. For more details about each of the core and the gaming technique that include in each of the core, can refer to the chapter 2.4. The comparison of the game that exists in the market has been done. From this table, we can know that there is no game in the market that able to provide the progress bar for the students to track their learning progress. Therefore, CSAG provides the progress bar for the students to track their learning progress. And CSAG also includes all of the gain characteristics that the current of the system has. To ensure the accuracy of the teaching materials and prevent the misleading of the information to secondary school students, a research on the paper is used to prepare the teaching materials. This is the example of the papers that use as a reference to prepare the teaching materials in CSAG. For example, in the paper that contributed by the Oliver in 2015, it able to state the definitions of cyberbullying, the 5 types of the online bullies such as the vengeful, anger, powerful, hungry, revenge of the nerds, mean girl, and the inhabitants, and different forms of the cyberbullying such as the denigration, impersonations, and the exclusion. For more information to teaching material, you can refer to the table in Appendix C. This is the example of the previous questions in cyberbullying categories. So from here, we can notice that the definition of cyberbullying and the definitions of impersonation, the denigration as exclusion, which is actually can refer to here. To the paper contributed by the Olivier in 2015. This is to ensure the accuracy of the information and prevent the misleading of the information about among the secondary school students. For more information about the question in each of the category, please refer to the figure listing in Appendix C. Now, I'm going to explain the summary of system development methodology. There is one methodology that used in CSAG, which is RAD. RAD stands for Rapid Application Development. RAD is chosen as a methodology because the different modules can be treated as a separate prototypes, and each of the modules are work independently with each others, which means that changing of one module does not affect the others. The prototype will be tested by the difference of the users and will be refined to meet the user requirements. Therefore, RAD able to produce the less bug and the efficient applications. It also allows the fast delivery of the applications. There is a 3 phase of RAD, which is the first phase is requirement analysis, followed by the design, and the end with the implementations. So the requirement analysis will have the questionnaire to identify the content of the lessons. This includes in the questionnaire I present just now, and design including the coding, the testing on the functionality, skill of fun, and the completeness, and the refinement of the CSAG, which is the changing according to the feedbacks of the users. For the implementation, including the integrations of the prototypes, the blackboard testing, whiteboard testing, and user acceptance testing. And each of the testing will be explained further in the chapter 5, which is the summary of the implementations and testing. Next, I'm going to present about the summary of the requirement analysis and design. First, I will introduce the technology used in developing CSAG. It breaking down into 4 parts, which is the game engine, database, IIS server, and MySQL workbench. The game engine used in developing CSAG is Unity because it has many of the graphic of the audio and the scripting features, and Unity able to support 2D and 3D games. In this case, it able to support the 3D game in CSAG. Besides, the Unity also able to support the different platforms. For these examples, as the CSAG is a web-based game, the Unity able to support the web-based application by using the WebGL. MySQL database is used as a database in CSAG because it able to work perfectly with PHP, which is the main server scripting that used in CSAG to manipulate the data in MySQL database. And most of the data that stored in the database is the structured data, therefore MySQL database is suitable to be used. IIS server is used as a web server. It able to receive the HTTP traffic on port 80 that sends from the clients. IIS server also provides the graphic user interface for the software developer to configure the web applications in a more easiest way. Besides, the software developer also use the IIS server as their own web server to host their own web server. Last but not least, MySQL Workbench. MySQL Workbench is used to create, execute, and optimize the SQL queries, and It is able to visualize the data structure in my SQL database. Therefore, it is chosen rather than the PHP my admin. The language that has been used is C# and the PHP. C# is used to control the game object behaviors and how they interact with each other. The Unity supports the C# and Visual Studio Code is used to write and test the scripting in C# language. The PHP is the main server scripting that used in CSAG to manipulate the data in my SQL database. So this is the use case diagram in CSAG. The use case diagram is a diagram that used to show the relationship between the actors and the function. From here, we can know that the actors is the players and the system administrator. The players are divided into new player and register player. The new player is only able to perform the register functions, while else the register player able to perform the login, view leaderboard, report problem, view profile, reset password, start game functions. And inside the view profile, they're able to view their progress, view their achievement, view the results, and changing the password. And start game, they're able to choose the category and receive the badges. And this is the sequence diagrams of the play pre-test quiz. The sequence diagram is used to show the relationships between the actors and the object in the system in the sequence. This is the sequence diagrams, and this is the sequence diagram of play lesson game, and this is the sequence diagram of playing the post-test game. And the activity diagram is also been drawn. The activity diagram is a diagram that used to show the activities flow from one to another, and it also includes the activity flows between the players and CSAG. From here, we can know that when the player clicks on the pre-test button, the pre-test page will be displayed and the questions and the choice of the answer will be displayed accordingly. When the player clicks on the possible answer, whether the answer is correct or not, and then if the answer is correct, that will be adding the time marks. If the answer is false, which means that it will also display the explanations of the questions, and the player will be proceed to the next questions. So when the number of the question reached 10, which means that the register player has been complete the pre-test, so the CSAG will calculate the total score gain and save in the database, and the lesson gain will be unlocked. This is the activity diagram of play lesson game. So from here, the register player will click on the lesson button, and CSAG will display the lesson game page for the players, and the lessons of the questions and the choice of the answer will be displayed in the checkpoint. The player will need to shoot on the possible answer and use WASD to move forward, backward, and left and right to avoid the obstacles. So if the answer is correct, the door of the checkpoint will be open and the color of the checkpoint buttons will change from the red to green. And once the player shoots on the answer, so the display explanations of the questions will be shown. If the answer is wrong, so it will display the hints of each of the answer. Once the player complete all 15 checkpoints, so the CSAG will update the lesson status to true and unlock to the post-test game. This is the post-test activity diagrams. So when the player start the post-test button, so the CSAG will display the post-test page and also the questions and the choice of answer accordingly. So same as the pre-test, the player will need to click on the possible answer. Different with the pre-test, post-test will not show the explanation in every of the questions that has been answered by the player immediately. The flashcard will be displayed at the end of the post-test in order for them to get an overview of their answer and the correct answer. So once the player has completed the post-test, the CSAG will calculate the total score gain and save in the database. It also will display the flashcard like I explained just now. And if the total score is less than 70, it will display the game over panel. However, when the total score is more than 70 marks, it will display the badges and unlock the next lessons. and the saved pages and the new lesson status will be updated in the database. The client-server architecture is used in developing the CSAG. From here, we can know that the players can request and respond to the web server remotely using the internet, and the system administrator able to direct connector to the web server, as the system administrator is using the desktop as a web server. So the web server can connect to the database, so the database will then respond back with the request to the web server and respond back to the players. This is the model view controller. There's a three part in this controller: the model, view, and controller. The model is referred to the database, view is referred to the interface, and the controller is used to interact between the model and the view. It will provide the in-system view, while the client-server architecture will provide the bird views of the system. This is the class diagram and entity diagrams. So now I'm going to explain about the interface design in CSAG. First, the user will be direct to the landing page or the home page when they enter csag.ddns.net/fyp. So after that, when they click on the get started, so the user will then direct to the login pages. If the user haven't logged in before, they will click on the sign up now, which will then direct to the register page. In the register page, the user can enter the username, password, and email and select for an avatar. Once they are successfully logged into the system, the game menu page will be displayed. So this is the example of the game menu page. So there's the four options for the players, which is play game, leaderboard, my profile, and quick game. In the play games, CSAG will first identify whether they have passed the tutorial. If they have passed the tutorial, there's a button for them to click to direct them to the game category menu page. This will be later explained in the demonstrations. So this is the example of the category menu page. There's the three categories, which is cyberbullying, oversharing, and safety downloading. So when the players click on my profile, it's able to display the progress in each of the categories, and the player able to review back on the pre-test score and the post-test score when the player click on the result button here in each of the categories. We also notice that there's a badge won here to indicate whether the player has won the badges or not. The player able to change the password in my profile interface. Besides, there's a leaderboard. The leaderboard will then show the ranking of each of the players, and this of the ranking is used of the dance ranking. From here, you can notice that there's a two of the player in the same ranking because of the same mark. This is what's the dance rank done. And from here, you can know that this is the ranking of the current players and the score that has been gained. So this one is the lesson menu page. When the player click on any of the category here, it will direct to the lesson menu page. From the lesson menu page, we can notice that now only the pre-test of the button in lesson 1 is unlocked by default. The others of the button is locked and cannot be clicked. So when the player click on the pre-test, it will show this is the interface of the pre-test models. The question will be shown, and there's a four answer can be chosen by the players. This is the lesson mode in CSAG, and the questions is displayed in each of the checkpoint, and the answer board is displayed. Once the player shoots for the incorrect answer, the tips or the hints will be displayed, and the player will need to click on the Q in order to close the hints. So once the player answer the questions correctly, so the checkpoint will be opened and player able to go for the next checkpoints. So the player will require to complete all 15 checkpoints. This is the example of the post-test quiz, which is similar to the pre-test quiz. However, the background has been changed, and difference with the pre-test quiz, which will be show the explanation in every of the answer the player will click. The post-test quiz will not show every of the explanation when the player click on the answer. However, it will show the flashcard in the end of the quiz. This is an example of the flashcard. So when the player passed with 70 marks and above, you will able to unlock the lesson 2 and get the badges. If the player score less than 70 marks, so the game over panel will be displayed, and the player will need to replay the lesson again in order to unlock to the next lesson. Now, I'm going to present about the summary of the system implementation and testing, which is the result of chapter 5. There's a 3 common testing method, which is whiteboard testing, blackboard testing, and user acceptance testing. Whiteboard testing is done by the software developer and there's no students involved. The software developer will test on each of the module and the internal structure of the system. The result of whiteboard testing is shown in the appendix end. For the blackboard testing, is done by the 3 secondary school students and the software developers. The result of the blackboard testing is attached in the appendix M. Last but not least, there's a user acceptance test. 21 of the secondary school students are involved and the 3 practitioners from the different professional fields are invited for the user acceptance testing. They are given 15 minutes to go through the systems and given the task to be complete during the testing. The 3 practitioners are invited to give their perspective in the teaching materials and to determine whether the teaching materials is informative or is that the teaching materials or the length of the test is too heavy for the students. This is the result of the user testings from the student's perspective. From here, we can know that this is the background of the secondary school students, which is 62% of them are from 5 students. And this of the bar chart will show the level of satisfactions in the pre-test mode, lesson mode, and the post-test mode. From here, we can know that 71.4% of them are extremely satisfied in the pre-test mode, lesson game mode, and the post-test mode. And 81% of them in lesson mode and the post-test mode think that the content in the lesson game mode and the post-test mode are very informative, whereas only 76.2% of them think that the pre-test content is informative. In general, all of the students agree that they learn the security awareness through the CSAG from this pie chart. Okay. So the questionnaire also tests for the skill of fun and the difficulties or the challenging. So 61.9% of them think that the lesson game in lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3 is extremely fun, and 57.1% of them think that the lesson game is extremely challenging. Therefore, this can be concluded that the lesson game for secondary school students is extremely fun and extremely challenging. The questionnaire also analyzed on the most enjoyable lesson in CSAG. From this of the pie chart, we can know that 71% of them think that they are most enjoy in playing the lesson game than the pre-test and the post-test. That is 19% of them think that the pre-test is fun and 2% of them think that the post-test is fun. There's 71% of them do not think that there's too many tasks, while else there's 6 students among the 21 students think that there's too much of the task to be complete in each of the lessons. To answer whether the task is too many in each of the lessons, so we get the comments or we get the opinions from the practitioners. Therefore, the practitioners is required in these testings. And these are the questionnaire also analyzed on the level of satisfaction of the students on the easy to use aspect in CSAG. There is 47.6% of them extremely satisfied on the easy to use aspect in CSAG, while 38.10% of them are satisfied on the easy to use aspect in CSAG. And in order to get the feedback from the students to the CSAG, we will also ask that how likely the students will recommend this game to the friends. And we can know that all of the students are more likely to recommend this game to a friends, and 86% of them willing to try the CSAG in future, and 3% will consider to try the CSAG in future. The practitioners are invited to provide their perspective in the teaching materials to determine whether the questions is informative, useful, or that's too heavy for the students. So the practitioners are from the different background, which is a computer science researcher, secondary school teachers, senior business consultant in financing technology industries. So that has been asked on the question whether there's too many tasks in each of the lessons. So from here, we can know that 67% of them think that the task in each of the lessons is just nice for the students to learn the security awareness game. And only 1% of them think that there's too many tasks in each of the lessons. The practitioners also being asked for the question whether there's too many questions in each of the lesson mode, because some of the students will then provide the feedback the checkpoint in the lesson game are too much, and that requires to reduce the number of the checkpoint in the lesson game. Therefore, this question is asked to the practitioners. So from here, we can know that in the pre-test and the post-test, there's a total 10 questions. The practitioners think that 10 questions is just nice for the students to have a brief in their security awareness category. And we can know that that's one of the practitioners think there's too many questions in the lesson game, and 66.7% of them thinks that 15 questions in each of the lesson game is just nice for the students to learn the security awareness, as they're able to improve the memory retention. Okay, in order to measure the effectiveness of CSAG in cultivating the security awareness among the secondary school students, the pre-test and the post-test results is analyzed. This graph shows the pre-test result in the cyberbullying, oversharing, and safety downloading categories. From here, we can know that there's a less of the students have the high knowledge in the security awareness in the cyberbullying, oversharing, and the safety downloading category. For the lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3, lesson 1 will talk about the general knowledge, and the lesson 2 will talk about the action being taken, and lesson 3 will then include back in each of the category like cyberbullying, oversharing, and safety downloading. So from here, we can know that majority of the students able to score 50 marks and above in the lesson 1, which is the general knowledge in cyberbullying, which means that they're able to know the general knowledge in the cyberbullying. However, the pass rate is 70 marks. So means this indicated that students has less knowledge in general knowledge, action taken, and the effects in cyberbullying categories. So from the graph in oversharing categories, we can see that majority of the students score less than 50 marks in the lesson 1, which is the general knowledge of oversharing categories, and all of the students able to pass with the rate of 50 marks and above in the lesson 2 in oversharing category, which is the action to be taken in oversharing, and most of the students score less than 50 marks in lesson 3, which is the effect in oversharing categories. And these show the result, the pre-test result in the safety downloading categories. From here, we can see that there's one student has a high score in the pre-test in safety downloading category in lesson 1. This indicates that the student has a good knowledge or have the highest awareness in the safety downloading issues. So from here, we can know that majority of the students will then score less than 40 marks in the lesson 3. And now I'm going to present about the analysis on the passing rate of the student in the first attempt. The passing rate is analyzed to determine whether the CSAG is effective in cultivate the cybersecurity awareness among the secondary school students. From each of the table here, we can notice that more than 71.4%, more than 71% of the students able to pass the cyber at the post-test for the first time. This indicates that the lesson games are effective in cultivating the security awareness among the secondary school students. And this is the percentage that show that the players able to pass the post-test when they retake the post-test for the first time. Now, I'm going to present about the suggestions for the future improvement. Different feedback are collected after the user acceptance testings. Here is the tables on the suggestion from the student's perspective and the practitioner's perspective. The student will first suggest to reduce the number of the checkpoint even the lesson game is fun and good. However, these of the suggestions will not be considered in the future improvement list, as the practitioners think that the number of the questions in each of the lesson game is suitable for the students to learn. 15 questions in the lesson game is just nice for the students and able to improve the memory retentions among the secondary school students. The students also suggest in giving more options on avatar. Therefore, in future, CSAG can consider to add on the avatar options, or maybe in future, the CSAG allow the student to customize their own avatar. The next suggestions suggested by the students is to design a map in the lesson game. The student also suggests to provide a learning hub which contain all the learning materials that are relevant to the course so that the student can refer back after each of the lesson. These suggestions will be added in the future improvement list as it is very useful for students to refer back the learning materials. The practitioners suggest to change the material to more layman terms, as the practitioners think the current CSAG systems, the wording used is too IT jargons to the education level. It should be translated into the more layman terms. The layman terms means that in more nature's way. This can be done by finding the simple words to swap with the IT jargons or the bombastic word in the future. However, in order to swap the IT jargons or the content into the more simple word which is more easy to be understood by the players, we need to consider that the swapping of the word does not take away the security awareness. In conclusion, the CSAG able to instill the cybersecurity awareness effectively through the gamifications method. This has been proved by more than 70% of the students able to pass the post-test quiz in the first attempt after playing the lesson game. And CSAG able to motivate the students to play the cybersecurity awareness game, as 86% of them are willing to try the CSAG in futures, and more than 50% of them think that the CSAG is fun and challenging. That's all for me. Thank you.